Session will be Dibya Jyoti Sharma, Kalki Subramaniam, Nabanita Sen Gupta, and Shri Vasudendra ji. I request all the delegates to come and acquire the seats. Yes, you can sit. No, this will be removed. Or you can give me 5 minutes so that I can get it replaced. 2 minutes. Okay. In the meanwhile, when the things are getting arranged, I must give a brief introduction of our speakers today. The name of this session is Sexuality and Identity in Indian Literary Creations, which will be chaired by Mr. Desmond L. Karma Flang. Mr. Desmond is an eminent poet and folklorist from Shillong. He has published collections of poetry and books on folklore, collecting, compiling, and editing folk narratives and folk songs of Northeast India. A professor of folkloristics at Nehu, Shillong, he is currently engaged in research projects on folklore and wildlife interrelationships, traditional textiles, ritual, and material culture. He is an associate member of the Folk Fellows of the Finnish Academy of Science and Letters and an active member of the Folklore Society, London. Sir, we welcome you here. We are having with us Mr. Dibya Jyoti Sharma, who has published 3 volumes of poetry on the Book of Prayers for the Non-Believer 2018 and 4 books of translations and 2 academic books besides numerous short stories and articles in journals. He was born in Assam and now lives in Delhi, where he works as a journalist and runs the independent publishing venture Red River, established in 2017. Red River today is known as one of the prominent independent publishers of poetry in English and English translation. We welcome you here, sir. We are having with us Kalki Subramaniam, who is a transgender rights activist, writer, visual artist, and poet. Kalki is the founder of the organization for transgender persons called Sahodari Foundation. A reputed orator, Kalki is also the author of 3 brilliant books: We Are Not the Others in English, Kuri Aruthan and Oru Thirunangiyan, and Diary Kuripu. Forgive me for the pronunciation because I'm not aware of that. In Tamil, many of her articles and poems have been included in many academic curriculum in India and published in many literary magazines internationally. Her poetry has also been translated into German language. She has won several awards for her activism, art, and literary contributions. We welcome you here. We are having with us Nabanita Sen Gupta, who is a translator, creative writer, and academician. She has 2 books of translation to her credit, A Bengali Lady in England and Chambal Revisited. She also has a couple of edited anthologies of critical essays on gender in South Asia, an anthology of poetry, and an edited anthology of poetry. Her writings have been published in various journals and anthologies. Her recently published book is co-edited anthology of English translations of Indian short stories written by women on mental health. And we are fortunate enough to have with us Mr. Vasudendra, an eminent Kannada writer. He is the first openly out and proud gay author of Karnataka. Congratulations for that. He has to his credit 16 books. He is a recipient of Karnataka Sahitya Academy Book Prize. His book, Mohanaswamy, chronicles the life of a queer young man and has been translated into English, Spanish, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, and Malayalam. He is trained counselor and provides free counseling to the gay community. He also contributes a monthly column on gender discrimination in the Daily Deccan Herald. So, on the behalf of Sahitya Academy and Ministry of Culture, Government of India, I welcome you all here, and so nice to see you here. And this is the last session for the day, but I'm pretty sure that this will leave you with some thoughts and some dazzling thoughts in your mind, and some few good direction to your thoughts, then how to proceed in the society and how to include everyone in our society, how to spread love and all. So, as I named the speakers today, in that very sequence, I will first of all invite Mr. Dibya Jyoti Sharma to come here and speak. Yeah, sorry, what can I do? Pardon? This is he is sharing the session, so I will ask him to speak at the last. And if he pleases, he can start. Sure, sure. Please.
We were thinking instead of doing a presentation and in the silo, so we can have a conversation.
All yours, as
Yes.
you wish.
So
All yours.
Desmond will start. No, it's fine, and then you can probably also join in and talk.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, so
So can we start with Kalki?
let's start. Let's start with Kalki then, and then we can start the conversation.
So thank you. Thank you, Dibya Jyoti. So I would now invite Kalki to speak, please. Sure. Sure. Please.
Vanakkam, namaste, and good afternoon, good evening to all the lovers of languages here. I stand before you not as a transgender woman or as a writer or an artist, but as a daughter of Tamil Nadu, a Tirunangai, which is my identity, a believer in transformation power of words. I'm Kalki Subramaniam, and I carry with me the voices of those who have been silenced, erased, or misunderstood, and I bring with me their voices to the stage and to your souls. And I'm here to speak about sexuality and identity in Indian literature, not just as an abstract truth, but as lived experiences, as a person who has lived those experiences myself with the transgender identity. I'd say that Tamil language is one of the definitely ancient languages, but it is also one of the very few languages in the world that adapts to modernization as well. Probably Tamil is the only language in India that celebrates and respects identities of different people beyond the binary of male and female. For example, we say Tirunangai in Tamil. This is one of the recent terms. Previously, it was eunuch during the British colonial period, as you may all know, to refer to a transgender person. It was eunuch, hijra, and all that. In Hindi, now we say the community, transgender community, trans women as kinnar. But in Tirunangai, in Tamil, means a sacred woman. And Tirunambi means a sacred men. So these are not just words. These are not just words that talk about people beyond the binary, transgender people, a trans man, a trans woman, and all that. These are not mere words. They are acts of resistance, acts of love, words of equality, and acts of becoming. Tamil literature, from Sangam poetry to Bhakti verses, has long embraced fluidity. The divine was never confined to binaries. Aravan married Krishna, according to the Hindu mythology, of course. Aravan married Krishna in Mohini form. Andal, the great Tamil ancient poet, she defied gender roles in devotion. Our stories were always queer, they just weren't always named so, that's all. But colonialism, as it is all well known, brought erasure, also with the Criminal Tribes Act of 1872, that criminalized the existence of eunuch people, that is the transgender people. Victorian morality silenced our vibrant expressions of desire, identity, and plurality. Today, not just in Tamil, but in Kannada and in Telugu and in Malayalam and even in other languages like Tulu, the LGBTQI community is emerging to tell their stories from their own voices and to talk and to create our own identities, names in a very dignified, spiritual, sacred, equal, modern ways. Not something that is heteronormative, that is actually named by the majority of heterosexual people, cisgender people. I'd also like to talk about how Tamil indeed stands out for its dignified, culturally rooted vocabulary that affirms gender diversity with grace and respect. Beyond Tirunangai and Tirunambi, which are about trans men and trans women, pronouncing as sacred men and sacred women, the Dravidian philosophical roots not just don't embrace fluidity, they have a strong community-led linguistic activism, of course. We also have beautiful terms, beautiful identities in our language for gay and lesbian people as well. Magilvan means gay persons, Magilvi means lesbian women. Magilvan, these are terms which are joyful, gender neutral terms that celebrate identity without binary constraints. And for queer, the word queer, we have a term called Pal Pudumayinar, which is one of the revolutionary words coined to affirm equality, respect, and celebrate their identity as well. Because Tamil language, as I said, does not really conform to heterosexual people. It conforms to everybody in spite of their gender, identity, sexuality, sexual expressions, and all that. While Tamil leads in this space, other languages are evolving too. For example, in Kannada, we have Mangalamukhi and Jogappa, though sometimes it is caste linked, they are still being reclaimed with pride. And in Telugu, Nabumsaha, which was used historically, but activists in Tamil, in Telugu as well as in Malayalam, from Kerala as well as in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are coining new modern terms to claim our respectful identities and respectful lives. I would like to read some of the Tamil Sangam literature. Agananuru, Purananuru, Tirukkural, Naladiyar, and Bhakti literatures like Tiruvasagam, Tirumandiram, and Tiruvaimuri also cite the existence of third gender as an identity. They may not be especially talking about equality or giving the presence recognized gender identity, but still they recognize the existence. For example, when we talk about the transgender identity, in the ancient Tamil literature, we have more than 30 names, 30 terms for referring transgender people. We call them Ali, Pedi, Idami, Ippandi, Kilibam, Sandagam, Kosha, etc. And in Tamil Bhakti literature, Lord Shiva is referred as a man, as a woman, as a transgender. Meaning Shiva is celebrated as man, woman, and transgender. And Pattinathar, a Siddha, an ancient poet from the 17th, 18th century, marvels Shiva as the same. Anahi, Pennahi, Aliyahi, Veturuvai, Manahi, Nindra Vagayariyen Puraname. This verse actually celebrates the divine transcendence of gender binaries, embracing all identities as sacred, which means, O perfect and complete one. You're the male, you're the female, and you're the other one, the transgender, assuming so many forms. I do not know the manner you take the form even in your youth. That's what it says. So in Tamil literature, beyond just literature or Hinduism in Tamil, when we talk about modern literature, in modern Indian literature, I would like to bring to your notice that one of the first queer literature actually came from Tamil Nadu, and particularly transgender literature. One of the first literatures also actually came from Tamil Nadu. The first transgender writer from the transgender community was A. Revati, and the first poet was myself. And beyond that, we have a number of writers from Tamil Nadu, and that whole transgender movement also emerged through writing, through telling our stories, through literature, through books, and through different media. But particularly, I would like to bring to your attention that our literature had the power to change politics, to break silences, and to create policies that is favorable to us. Our former Chief Minister, Mr. Karunanidhi, also recognized this term Tirunangai and made it official, made sacred women, sacred men, Tirunambi and Tirunangai, as official. And so the Tamil language is one of, not just an ancient classical and one of the 9 oldest languages in the world, it also takes as transitions itself into a form of new modern language that recognizes people as for their sexuality and identities as such. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks to Kalki, she gave a wonderful introduction about how the trans community has been receiving positive vibes in Tamil Nadu. It's really heartening to hear that. See, in Karnataka also, there is a support which is coming, the reservation within the government seats or jobs for them, specific jobs for them is coming. But what I see here is society is assuming, especially the politicians assume the queer man, LGBT person means it's only a trans woman. The gay, lesbian, the other trans, so many people are there, they will never agree to accept them as a queer. Okay, so it's anything, any award which it goes to a trans woman. Of course, they are the sufferers, most sufferers. But society is okay to accept a trans woman. But when it comes to a gay or a lesbian or even a bisexual, there is a lot of issues which is popping up now. So I am Vasudhendra. I am the first out and open proud gay author of Kannada. So I have written in 2013 a book called Mohanaswamy. It talks about the gay life in rural area, not in the urban. So rural area, how does the gay man lives? It's almost a semi-autobiographical work of mine. See, what is the identity? See, why we are talking about the identities? One question which comes into picture. Before we go to that, I think it's better to have an introduction of 3 terms which gives you understanding of what we are talking about, me or Kalki or Dibya. So what we are talking about, you'll get an idea. One is sex, and then is the gender and the sexuality. These are the 3 terms which will define the things in a different way. The sex, which you know very much, it's a biological. When you are born with a particular sex. It could be a male or female depending upon your genitals. So they are going to tell you what you are. So that is the sex. And afterwards comes when you are like in a puberty period. So it's somewhere when you are into the youth. You want to represent yourself as a male or female. It could be both, either. You might be a boy, but you would like to showcase yourself as a girl to the outside world. Okay, that's one thing. Or it could be a girl and she wants to represent herself as a boy. So this is the gender. So the gender, how I would like to project myself to the society is the gender. It is flexible. So it can change in any way. Sex will not change unless you undergo for an operation. So sex will not change, but the gender will change. But what is the sexuality? So that's the question. Sexuality is what we are talking about. Sexuality is something totally different. Sexuality is something connected with the attraction you have with what gender or the what person you have might be multiple genders also. It's not just one gender, it might be multiple genders. So you might be dressed like a girl. So you would like to represent yourself as a girl, but your interest of attraction is girl only. It may not be a boy also. Don't forget that possibility is also there. So if you take these 3 and the combinations of it is infinite. So the identity is really, it's very, very complex one. It is not just two dimension, it is a multiple dimension sphere. So where someone stands, we really don't know. So why it becomes important for me? The gender, the sexuality and the identity. So why it becomes so important? I'll tell you something. So I'm a person who come from a small village where I was always trained to read Kannada. Not so much on English. Like though I have done my engineering and master's in engineering from famous colleges, but I was always inclined to the reading Kannada newspaper and Kannada this thing. And believe me, till my engineering final year, I didn't know what is my identity. I knew that I am different from all my friends, but I wasn't sure what is it called as, because Kannada newspapers, Kannada media, Kannada literature never spoke about it. Even if they spoken about it, it is negatively. It's not in a positive way. That's how it was, the impression was. So the identity becomes so important because afterwards what people realize, your friends and all will start recognizing you that there is something different. This person is something different. He's not same as us. So identity is different. And it goes in an indirect way and it insults you, it harms you, it hurts you. So I'll tell you an example what happened. So 10 of us were very, very close friends. After the engineering and after the masters, each one started getting married. So out of these 10, 9 of them married, right? So 9th person marriage, we all assembled, all 10 of us assembled. One of my friend made a comment saying that, I think all the normal people got married. You know, the word he is using is normal. So he is indirectly telling me that I am the abnormal person. Okay, and that abnormality, they all laughed at it. When he made the joke, everyone laughed at it because for them, a heteronormal community, the abnormality is something which is different from themselves, right? It took almost 15-20 years for me to write my own semi-autobiography, Mohanaswamy, and to declare that I am also normal like you people, and there's no change. There's not much difference. Only thing is, you might be very much comfortable with your right hand, I might be comfortable with my left hand. My choice, or my desire, I don't use the word choice, it comes with the birth, so my desire is with the same sex. So that's what is the important thing. So why it was not there in Kannada literature? Why people were not speaking? We have enough literature as far as the trans community is concerned. So trans community always, from the mythology time onwards, people have spoken about the trans community. So when it comes to the same sex, the gay man or the lesbian, why they were so much afraid is, it was not spoken in the society. It was not at all spoken, it was hidden under the carpet. So I'll tell you, if I tell one example what happened, you will be in a position to understand the dilemma. So when my first book came, I was telling everyone, I was coming out along with that, not my first book, my gay related book, that is my 13th book. When it came, so I started telling everyone that, so I'm a gay, I'm coming out of through this book and all. So one of my friend who is a professor in Canada, who doesn't read in English, so he's a professor in Canada, he's very good, very knowledgeable person, and I told him, see, I'm coming out, so I'm a gay. So he's a very empathetic to me, he's very good and very kind to me. But what he said is, Vasu, maybe because you stayed in abroad, I was working in UK for almost 4 or 5 years, I worked in United Kingdom. So because you were working there for 4 or 5 years, did this gay virus bite you to get this disease? Okay, so what exactly it means is, there are two things. One is, he is assuming that it is a disease and comes from something like your corona, it comes like that, like a HIV, so it comes with some virus biting you. And also, he is under the impression that it comes from abroad and it's not within the India. And this is the mindset of the most Indians. Almost 90% of them believe that it is Western culture. Nothing to do with the Western. Wherever there are people, there will be queer men in that group, irrespective of time and space. Okay, irrespective of that. So that's why people were not writing about it. Like, what was there were, doesn't mean that there were no queer people in Canada. There were many. I can make out. Now people tell stories. Unofficially they tell stories. He was a gay. He used to, he tried to touch me. Everything they will tell. But why they didn't write? They never wrote because they were very afraid of writing. But heterosexual communities, the straight community, were curious to explore everything, right? So all our senior authors, they have tried to write about it actually, so what it could be. So they have thought their own imagination. So most of them, their concept is this. Because you are in the company of men all the time, so you are always surrounded by men, you will have sex with a man. Better you get introduced to a woman also, then your diseases will come down and you start interacting with a woman. So it is like this, you know. So their theory is like this. You take an ant and put it in a masala box, masala dabba. So because it's not getting the sweet, it will start eating the masala, the spices it will start eating. So it will not look for the sugar or the sweet, it will not look. It will never work. It is not the case at all. Please believe me, it doesn't work like that. Even if I am there surrounded by 100 beautiful women, my heart beats for a good looking man. It's as simple as that. You cannot suppress that by surrounding me with a beautiful woman. So it's not that way. It is not something which is cultivated. It is not someone who goes and takes it as a choice. And other kind of the theory which was there in our literature was something much more this thing, saying that it is the highest sin anybody can do. That's the thing which they had thought. Okay, they wanted to show a person who is the sinner most, like he is the most villainous, means that character they will introduce with the gay association. Unfortunately, and in the end he has to die. So that's the punishment which is given for the activities which he has carried. I said, in my character, protagonist will never die. That is what is the revolution for me. He is not asking for your sympathy. He is asking for his right to live in this world. So that's what I was trying to focus on, Mohanaswamy. But what happened is something very interesting. My book in 2013, it got released on 11th December. And many of you may not remember, but that is the day our great Supreme Court recriminalized gay men. So recriminalized queer person. What does it mean? In fact, the punishment was so severe. If you are a rapist, the punishment is far less than if you are a gay man. That was what Supreme Court, the section 377, which was now, thank God it has been removed. So that is the one which was announced on the same day. I was in shivering actually. So what's going to happen? So will they put me in jail? Will they put me in behind the bars? Like you start getting worrying about it. If you ask lawyers also, they also don't know what is going to happen. So, and afterwards I realized, okay, they may put me behind the bars, but I will not be alone. There will be many gay men like me in the jail also. Maybe jail might become a better place than this outside the jail. Because if you are surrounded by all good-looking gay men, so I feel more comfortable than staying outside where the people are so much of homophobic. So that is the thing which I had actually. But another thing, actually, see, the theories, how it came, it's very interesting. Some of them, another person, yeah, I'll finish it off, yeah, I'll finish it off. Yeah, I'll shift. I think time is the thing, the crucial. So what I try to say is why it is required in the literature. The literature needs the presence of a various queer identity, including gay, trans, or lesbian, whatever it is, it's required, is because without the knowledge, phobia will increase. The homophobia is there because you are not talking about homosexual in your literature. Unless you educate the people around your society, the phobia will not vanish. So that is the reason why I strongly urge everyone, if you have come across anything related with the same sexual attraction, please bring that in your literature in all its honesty. When you read something like that, please respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A very good afternoon to everyone present in this room. As somebody who's given the responsibility of chairing this very, very interesting, this tremendously interesting and charged session, I would like to keep my observations very brief. We began with Kalki, who...
There are still two people to speak yet.
Yes, yeah. So we began with her, who gave us this wonderful scenario about how Tamil language is encompassing, how it enfranchises, and the very etymological construction of words that she had mentioned, embodies the fluidity and the non-binary idioms of Tamil language as far as gender is concerned. It is really limit-shattering gender discourse, according to me, which celebrates and does not condemn. The sense of respect and reciprocity which I detect, in Sangam literature is simply something very, very fantastic. We had Vasu here, who spoke about a trapped identity which is worrisome, and that he experienced till his university days, and where his normality was suspect. Credit goes to him, that he was able to emancipate himself from that noxious stereotyping, and he also mentioned the attribution of being different to foreign surgeons, which is again very funny, and the appellation of this kind of an attitude to a disease is also especially shocking when it comes from somebody who is as erudite as the professor that he spoke about. So with these brief comments, I would call upon our next speaker. And yes, madam, you were interested in making it a more conversation mode, so perhaps we could do that. Yes, please.
Yeah, we did have two very spirited and interesting observations on sexuality and identity. I was just reading one book a while back. This is particularly for you, Vasudendra. This is Entering the Maze, which is by Krishna Mohan Banerjee, which has been translated by Niladri Chatterjee, where he explores his homosexuality. And he is a married man with a child, but then he's unique because in spite of the heterosexual setup in which he is existing, he chooses to be open about his homosexuality. So that's why this book is very important, I think. I really appreciate and would like to begin from the point where what Kalki speaks about, that we had in our literature sexuality which was celebrated, and identities were without binaries. We did not have these hierarchical binaries. And keeping to what the topic for today's discussion is, sexuality and identity in Indian literature, I wanted to speak about a particular book, and for a reason, because this book by Muddu Pilani, who is a 17th century courtesan, the book itself is celebratory of erotic literature that we find in our classical texts, which is which had been wiped out almost by the time we come to the 19th century or the post-colonial period, mostly because, again, Kalki has already mentioned that, mostly because of the Victorian Prudeism that comes in our culture as well. Even now, I think when we are, I come from the academia here, like when we are discussing our literature, particularly analyzing our literature in literature classes, we use Western theories, which I find limited when we are going to talk about many other things, but sexuality more importantly in the Indian context. We forget that we did have this Shringar Ras. Shringar Ras is actually much deeper than what we understand by sexuality only. It's more, it includes sexuality and more. Now, Mudhu Pilani, I find her extremely interesting for a particular reason, because firstly, the verses are just amazing. Like, they are beautiful, and they bring out a woman's desire. Like, even in the heteronormative structure that predominates, if I can use that word, our social structure, female desire had often been either repressed or been cast into the margin or looked down upon, frowned upon, and like, it comes with all sorts of reservations. Mudhu Pilani comes from this, she's a courtesan, and in the 17th century, and the verse that she composes, it's the appeasement of Radha. And in this, Radha has kind of tutored her nephew, her niece Ila, and Ila is always present during the courtships of Radha and Krishna. And she has to actually prepare her for her wedding to Krishna. She would be getting married to Krishna. And there I found the way she's preparing the girl and then she's giving her over to Krishna. I find that particular verse, it's verse number 65, I'll read it out as well. I find this verse both erotic and touching at the same time. It's tragic as well, because Radha, for all the love that she has for Krishna, can never be the wife that Ila is going to be. And she says, I'll just read that particular verse. Her breasts are sensitive like buds coming a-bloom, unlike mine. They won't bear your scratching them. Her lips are green like young leaves, unlike mine, which are mature like coral. Don't bite too hard. Her thighs are soft like banana stems, unlike mine, which are used to grappling with you. Her body is like a climbing vine, unlike mine, which is as tough as gold. She is not me, and I am not her. A novice is she, new to the game, a mere child, nowhere your equal in the game of love. But you know that. Do you need my advice to handle women? You are the expert, a skilled lover. Now, what she is doing is, while she's warning Krishna, it's also very evident that she's jealous, she's angry, she's an entire range of emotion is actually playing on within her. Now, interestingly, this book was lost, and there's another courtesan much later in the early 19th century, Naganathamma. She discovers that book. Now, how she discovers that book is another story, but she finds a copy of that book which had been brought out by one British Telugu, one British person. He was a scholar of Telugu literature, Charles Philip Brown. Now, when he brought that book out for publication, as had happened with Omar Khayyam, as we all know, Omar Khayyam's verses, this was also completely sanitized. Several verses were just left out because it was not considered fit for reading. And then kind of also the biographical part, I mean autobiographical part was kind of wiped out because it was not considered fit for consumption. When Naganathamma wanted to bring out the entire book, both she and Mudupalani, they were branded as whores. And that's where we find this Victorian construction of sexuality coming in. And from there we find the repression. I'm very happy that Penguin had brought out this English translation of this work. And it's a beautifully translated work. But what I just wanted to focus on this book because not just for the beautiful verses that it contains, also for its reception actually contains within itself the entire history of sexuality and its representation in India. I'd also like to focus on some contemporary women poets who they are using there is covert, overt, and various ways in which sexuality is being used in their poems. We have Salma here and her book I Salma, where she's using the body or her identity as woman more as a protest. But there are some places in the verse, particularly I'll just speak of, I'll read two excerpts, where she speaks of her sexuality and its denial. A woman's sexuality and denial in the sense. In the running water, her body dissolves. Her body is taught unable to soften. And then in another poem called Rain of Parting, from this moment, there will be no one to share this night, this rain, this despair. So there is also the desire. So women have now learned to come out with desire. Not learned, but have found the way to express the desires which they had been doing for centuries, but they had been also censored badly, censored quite strictly for this. One interesting work that I came across in Bengali literature that is also one of my forthcoming books, and I just want to briefly read a bit from that. It is actually, it's again brought out by Red River and Dibajyote is here. So it is a book of poems where library becomes a kind of psychosexual metaphor. And Trishna Bashak, the name of the poet, she is writing like love poems to library, and sexuality comes in very intimately in these poems. The first dedication itself actually sets the tone, and I'll read a bit. Dedication. Drink, O library, winter is done, now sip the spring. All your books are to be read, but they are undrinkable. Take a sip of spring, sip the leela that has gathered upon the lips. So, you know, it's a kind of the leela and drinking and all these, they come together as a kind of metaphor, and these metaphors are repeated. Another very short poem that is there, which is Everything is Left to be Read. Your body is like Van Gogh's sunflower. In it, when I drop a blob of my heart melts as if a doll made of salt. I shall go as far as you will take me, library. Everything is left to be read yet. I have everything left to be read. Now, this is a very interesting thing of this poem is the library in Bengali, it has no gender. Now, Bangla allows that kind of freedom. So when I translated it into English, I've tried to not to use any of the gender pronouns so that, you know, the identity is fluid, which is something I find is fascinatingly present in Indian literature. Another work that we had recently done, which has been published by Neogi Books, which is Bandaged Moments, a collection of short stories by Indian women authors from 16 languages. We have 26 stories. These are all stories on mental health, published stories, fictions on mental health. There also we find sexuality and mental health is associated. So people, I mean girls particularly, like who are branded as crazy, pagal, these kind of girls, they are more kind of sexually abused. So that's another way in which we find expression of sexuality coming in not as desire, but as something that is being exploited, that something that is constantly abused. So we find presence of sexuality in Indian literature, particularly in classical literature, in its immense richness. And I think it's time that we go back and explore the multifarious levels of sexuality that is present and enjoy it in its entire beauty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Navneeta, for that presentation. It's really very significant that you mentioned the historical period that spawned the text that you mentioned. It's also interesting because I thought about the publication of the classic Fanny Hill in 1749, where Cleland talks about this woman who learns, prostitution through the power of body. Paradoxically also, this very same text, while it has the subtitle of Memoirs of a Woman of Pleasure, yet it is also called Hymn to Virtue. So this is something very interesting that I find. Now I would like to invite Dibya Jyoti. You will do it from there.
Hello. Hello. Hi. Hi, hello everybody. I'm the last one. I was the first one, and I switched myself, demoted myself to the last one because I wrote an essay like everybody else, but then it became very heavy, very serious because I have a lot of things to say about it. And then this is not the time and space, I think. So I thought I'll just point out some issues basically. We are talking about sex and sexuality, and as a nice Indian boy as I am, it sort of worries me. Yeah, no, I mean, to talk about identity, that is so different thing. Even talking about sex, starting with that word, it worries me because we don't want to talk about sex. We talk about something else. We want to sublimate it. So I don't want to talk about my friend having an affair with another man, or my friend, woman friend having an affair with another woman. We want to talk about Krishna having an affair with Aravan. That is easier for us and everybody will accept it. But I don't want to talk about my neighbor being gay, but I don't mind talking about Krishna and Arjun having a friendship and writing literatures about it. Oh, this is nice. Because they're gods. We are mere mortals. And we should not make mistake. They can do anything. They are divine. So I have you mentioned that, so I wanted to, So again, I feel when you are, mention them as divine, you are again othering it. There's the whole concept of the center and the periphery. The center is the heterosexual male, whatever is happening, and the other is everything. So you call them, okay, they're divine, they are different, they are. So my MPhil topic was on this subject, on queer poetry, and what happens. Do we have a queer literature in India? Then when I was discussing, then I realized that no, we do not have a queer literature in India, though we go back to our scriptures and our epics and find stories relevant for us, because we have to create an identity, and which we have been doing, and which is wonderful. But we don't have a theory, because our queer writing come from the idea of queer writing come from the West, and the concept of how we rationalize it is very different in the West than in India. So we find out that in the West the culture is of a guilt culture, whereas in India the culture is of a shame culture. In West, you don't do this thing, this is deviant act, because Bible doesn't allow it. Bible says, Leviticus says, don't sleep with men, sleeping with man, two men sleeping together is a sin. So you don't do that. So it's a guilt. You are guilty, then there's a punishment. But in India, we don't have the concept of that. But we sublimate it. We make it something else. So that is what we, okay, so that is what we sort of celebrate Naga sadhus. We don't see the sexuality in it. We remove the sexuality part of it. No, but there is a concern, I'm just asking. Okay, so it reminds me of this thing. So a lot of time back, there was this Hrithik Roshan movie called Kaho Na Pyar Hai. So I went to see the movie with a friend of mine who is from Germany, he is German. So, you remember the scene where in the island they fall in love and then they started singing. Then she said, which I remember, like, oh, in India, whenever in Western movies, whenever there is a sex scene, in India, you start singing and dancing. This is what exactly we do, because we are ashamed of the very act. So we just sublimate it and we start dancing and singing. And audience understands. Like, you remember old movies, like there would be two flowers doing each other, and the hero heroine is behind the bush. So, birds and bees, So it's a very complicated situation. So then recently, just yeah, last week, a friend of mine who runs a very prestigious feminist writing journal, which is very well known, and she is very good at it. She said that, okay, Divya, let's do something. Let's try to earn some money. How? Let's start a journal dedicated to erotic writing from Indian writers. Because we don't have, though we have a long tradition of erotic writing, we have one fat book, Kama Sutra. After that, the Kama Sutra is not treated as erotic writing, it is treated as something else. But do we really have a tradition of erotic writing? No. We don't have an Aeneas Nin or a Henry Miller or anybody else who is focused on erotic. So she said, let's invite big writers, let's get a funder who can give us some lakhs of rupees, and then we started a website and promote erotic writing. I said, it's a fantastic idea, but do you think there's a reader for it? Because if you want to talk about sex or write about sex, who wants to read about erotic, literary erotica when they can find this website called Lit Erotica? If you have not seen it or Google it. Or you can go to OnlyFans. If you have not heard of OnlyFans, Google it. So there are so much of sexuality available, or sex acts, or what kind of things you want. Whatever you want is there at the click of your phone. So in that case, what literature is doing and what literature should do? That's a big question that nobody is able to answer it. So now, I don't know how much time we have. So I want to come to some issues of identity. 4 minutes. Okay, quickly. Okay, so quickly, identity, we are coming to the other word now, identity. So when is the identity is a very difficult version, because if you put sexuality and identity, which comes before? Because identity also has a different hurdles to pass. What is your identity? It comes from, as Vasananda says, gender, one thing. And after that, there are lots of, in India especially, there are a lot of issues we are mired with. Your caste, your, background, your location, where do you stay? For example, a gay man, the problem of a gay man from Delhi, who is an upper caste, convent education, and with privilege, money, and the problem of a gay man from a small town, say Patna, who is Dalit, who do not have the English language, it's completely different. So how do you reconcile this? Okay. So now quickly, there are a lot of things I'm saying to. Now I want to talk about queer literature, because that's where my expertise lies. But quickly I'll tell you about. So recently, the first queer writer in English, not in English, It's again a privileged language, so issues are privileged. So in English, whatever queer writing has happened so far, it is about a very urban, moderately rich, well-to-do person. So that whatever choices he makes, it doesn't have any real life consequences. He can live with it. Like, if he comes out as gay man, he's not going to lose his job. That is very different from the issues that, people from rural India is facing. And then I think there are a lot of activity happening in the regional languages where the real stories are coming out, but in English is yet to catch up. I'll give two examples. Recently, two books came out, both were published by Westland. Sorry, Kartika. The one is called Deviant. So that story is again talking about how gay man has to suffer and endure suffering, going through internal homophobia, external homophobia and all that in last three generations. The last generation, current generation, this guy is based abroad, so how he is struggling with his sexuality in abroad and in India. Oh, bhaiya, in India we have come through that internal homophobia. Now, if you go to any place, you meet a gay man, and then young guys, 18, 19, that identity has been accepted. At least like the internal homophobia, which we have been struggling with, that has been taken care of by individuals because we have resources now. We have YouTube. We have friends who will listen. We have role models like Vasudendra, like Kalki, but our literature, especially in English, not able to catch up. Yeah, we have ChatGPT, we have a lot of research. But what happens is our literature has not been able to catch up. The reason why? Gatekeeping. The reason why? Because of, at the center of all this is the heterosexual man with money who decides what kind of stories needs to be told. You know what is the most popular queer writer or most popular writer who writes about queer sexuality in India in English is a cishet man, Saikat Mazumdar. I'm sorry I'm naming name, but that's a fact. He is popular. He is popular because he is not seeing things as not as sex act, the struggle. He's talking about love. Oh, I love this man, so what I'm feeling. Other things are taken care of. It's a question of love. But being a gay man or a gay woman or transgender man or transgender woman, it's not a question of love. It's a question of how I present myself to the world. That is more important finding some handsome man and falling in love. Oh, he will accept me or not. So, but this is easier for a heterosexual reader to read. So he is very popular. I mean, God bless him. He also writes well. But we need to catch up with the reality, which has not happened. So I was very, I'm very angry about this. So recently, a new book came out. It's called Half-Light. It's by this writer called Mahesh Rao. His first two books are published abroad. He's a big deal, kind of. And what he's writing about, again, about that reference you made, about that time when the homosexuality was decriminalized, he's talking about the struggles of one privileged guy and one non-privileged guy and how they will meet and how will they find love. Give me a break, man. There are other stories. There are more interesting stories to be said. So my point here is that in literary creation, in Indian literary creation, focused on English, I feel that the writers have not able to catch up with the reality. But the reality is also very complicated. So one writer that I admire, I feel more people should read, but he is not read because he is difficult. And not only difficult, he is like little icky, so to say, is R. Raj Rao. I'm just, okay. Because he tells the truth and he says as it is, and so it is not very comfortable for general to read. So people have complained about it. But I think we need to have more writing which reflect the reality as we live in. Thank you.
Before I invite comments, I would just like to briefly give a very small observation about the presentation done by Dibya, where he has expressed, in very clear terms, the attitude and the behavior of reticence that we have when we discuss sexuality. But let me tell you, as a folklorist, I strongly contend that our oral tradition talks about sexuality in very, very, in very clear terms. For instance, in my language, the word for flesh and the word for kiss or kissing is the same. It's called do. 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 When you talk about flesh, it's the same as kissing. Right. So, so this is just one small illustration that I would like to give. And I'm sure that this discussion has provoked and is provoking, will provoke comments from members of the audience. And I invite comments, maybe if you have any points of clarification that you would like to raise.
If you want to ask certain
so,
questions
yes.
regarding this, the discussion that we
Yes,
just
and please
listened to,
address the speakers.
please, you can ask questions, you can discuss it. Feel free to talk about whatever you want to ask, whatever things are going on in your respective minds. You can certainly ask, because best people are here to answer that. They are not faking anything. They are what they are, and they are presenting themselves in their thorough originality. So you may ask whatever you want. Whatever is going on in your mind. No, not with a smile. Frame it in a sentence and you can ask. Please.
Yes, please.
Can we pass on the mic?
Yes, the lady needs a microphone.
Okay, yeah, you are audible too. Please.
Yes, I'm audible. My question is to Vipin Sharma. As I understand, the moot point is about inclusivity in literary creations. But at the end of the day, a literary creation is a creation of mind, isn't it? Irrespective of gender.
Yes, but then we are talking about not literary.
Mind.
But we are talking not just literary creation, but those who get published, who publishes them and who promotes them, because there is a whole structure to creating literature, not just writing. Writing is a very small part of it, a very important part, very small part, but we're talking about the publishing, especially in English. There's a whole hierarchy of publisher, of who gets published by whom and why this person gets published by wherever. So we're talking about that. So I think what's happening in English, unfortunately, the stories that are being told, especially the queer stories, that are centered into certain urban localities. It's either Delhi or Mumbai. If you look at the recent books that published, it's either Delhi or Mumbai and Bangalore to a certain extent. Not the smaller town. There are stories happening in the smaller towns. So, and there are writers writing it, but probably they are not getting the chance because that doesn't appeal to, because the majority of the writers that the big publishers care about, readers, is the generic readers. That is why I gave the example of Saikat, because he is more palatable. And then he gets a wider readership, so that's why he gets published also, and he's gets accolade. But somebody like Raj Rao, he writes from the ground, and he writes from below the margin, so it is difficult for him to get the readership of the heterosexual community. So it is like the gay LGBTQ versus the cishet.
So one question I would like to ask is whether LGBTQIA. I heard this term only 5 years back. I was not knowing only lesbian love was being taught by our English teacher in Patna University. But this whole LGBTQIA and n number of this is gender of thing. How suddenly these terms being globalized?
Okay, this is, I think Kalki can speak about it.
Well, I think because of the discrimination and colonization, it's particularly I would talk about the Indian perspective. The British have ruled more than 250 years in our country, more than 2.5 centuries in our country. And in 1872 itself, they were not comfortable with men dressing up as women or the way around that, or the vice versa. So, you know, the British culture is so male-centric and also male-toxic, as many of us would have known at that time. I'm talking about at that time, not today. So at that time, they were so annoyed by the eunuchs who were, you know, the men who were, they thought men who were dressed up as women, and then dancing on the streets, entertaining Indian villagers, moving around and all that. So they, apart from putting restrictions on a number of communities under the Criminal Tribes Act, they also included a transgender community. So for more than 250 years, even today our community is begging. So even the transgender community also got an identity only for the past 10 years, 15 years. Before that, even when you take the transgender literature, it's very new, of course. Otherwise, we also always talk about Mahabharata and Ramayana and Krishna becoming Mohini and all that. Apart from that, the gay identity is also not new. The lesbian identity is also not new. Intersex, we call, in Tamil, we call it as Idai Palinam. It's actually, intersex people may be born with both the gender, both the sexual characteristic genetically, a male character, a male genetic body, as well as a female genetic features, for example, with probably with a penis, but still with a womb and all that. So I wouldn't call it as a deformity, because that would be one way of my perspective. So everybody has a space to claim their identity, whatever form our body is. Whether you are born with a womb and a penis, you are a human and you need your space, and that is what modern literature, modern society, our civilization, and in a way, a very civil society with a civic sense identifies, acknowledges, and gives equal space. So today, after so many years of colonization, and after more than, after so many years of Indian independence, women get educated, transgender people get educated, and our real identities emerge. Not just transgender people, gay people as well come out, lesbian people come out, intersex persons come out and talk about our issues in a forum like this. Otherwise, think about 15 years ago, which transgender person was here to talk about...
You also want to say something.
Which gay person was here to talk about our identities 20 years ago in Sahid Academy? Nobody. Okay. So that comes with education, that comes with reservation, that comes with equality, that comes with sensitization.
Okay, kindly keep it short and crisp.
Add to that one, the Section 377 got decriminalized only in 2016. That's why we are able to talk about this subject so boldly sitting on the venue. Otherwise, do you think Central Sahitya Academy arranged an LGBT session when there is a Section 377 was there? So that is...
Excuse me, I need to interrupt.
So
that is my job.
That is the reason
we
why
can talk about all these things at tea.
Otherwise, we'll not there. Yeah.
We can move out of this room and we can have a lot of discussions.
I think we can
till
have
midnight.
quite a lot of
No
discussion.
problem.
There's no problem.
Because this is... Sure.
The term LGBTQIA has gained currency. It had already been existing, and we have actually in several Indian languages dictionaries which talk of various kind of sexualities. Unfortunately, they have never been translated into English, and there hasn't been so much of open talks about it. So it's not that this has suddenly sprung up, these identities. These identities have always been there, just that we've not been aware of it.
Thank you, Nabanita. Now let's move out of the room and we can discuss it on tea. Thank you everyone for being patient listeners.